What is up, Maniacs? My name is Zach, and I am the Milly Maker Maniac. Today we are doing a Best Ball Mania Best Ball draft. I'm pick number 9. We're about to get started here. We are doing this on Underdog. Underdog is half point PPR scoring, so a little bit more touchdown dependent than over on DraftKings where it's PPR. Should have quite a few good options at 9. We'll be in that Niko, Malik, Puka, Amon-Ra, Brian Thomas range. If any of the running backs, if McCaffrey falls there, definitely take him. But I think that is unlikely. It'd pretty much just go in the order of ADP right now. Pretty even on my exposure to all these guys. See, we would be pick 16 on the way back. That H and AJ Brown range, Chase Brown. We're on the clock now. We're going to go with Niko. So we'll go ahead and queue up our Texans. Hopefully I don't have a bad auto draft mistake like I had earlier in the week. I accidentally auto drafted Jaden Higgins in the 4th round on my last Niko and Puka lineup. They play the Chargers, so we'll queue all of them up as well. They play the Chargers in week 17, so trying to create some playoff correlation, week 17 correlation. If we get to week 17 and that's the game that goes off, we've got a lot of pieces from that game. So Ladd is definitely somebody we can consider here. We just have a receiver. H&N is maybe kind of leaning towards Chase Brown. Let's not auto draft again. So we got Chase Brown. I was deciding between really all these guys are good options here. Ladd would be nice from a correlation standpoint in week 17. But I just feel like Chase Brown is the most likely person in this group to be this year's Saquon, to be that guy that you had to have last year that had the massive advance rate. Saquon's advance rate was roughly 48%, somewhere in that ballpark. I have to look it up, but it was in the high 40s range. I think just Chase Brown on that offense, they're going to have to score a ton of points to be competitive this year. With Joe Burrow, I think they will be. And he'll be the benefactor of that a lot throughout the season. He is a guy that I think is the last guy really in that range, maybe besides Jonathan Taylor, that has the potential upside of being RB1. Obviously, I don't think that is likely. I think his ceiling is closer to like RB4. But even that, like in halfway mid second round, getting Chase Brown for with that upside, I don't mind that at all. And gives us a stud running back rather than having to chase more of a mid running back in the later rounds and going 0 RB. So like how this played out, he also catches the ball out of the backfield a lot, so get a few more points with the half point PPR compared to other guys like Derrick Henry in that range. So we can go up and queue up the Bengals. I'm sure everybody's gone. T's still hanging out, but he'll be gone by the time we get back to us. But we could consider Joe if Burrow falls to the 6th round. I would take him because do you have some correlation with Brown there? They play the Cardinals. in week 17, so we'll queue them up as well. So reason we do this, why I'm go ahead and just queuing up all their teammates. I'm trying to make bets on offenses. If I think an offense, it can be number one offense in fantasy football, score the most fantasy points. I want as many pieces as possible from that offense. Um, so we're projecting towards scenarios, like best case scenarios when we're building this out. And if the Bengals are the number one offense, like all those guys are going to perform at or above their ADP. Obviously, can't outperform 1-1 where Chase goes, but they'll be very important pieces and could be the pieces you need in week 17 as well. All right, so we're coming up on the clock here. I don't have much Marvin Harrison. I kind of think there's a lot of bust scenarios on him, but there is a scenario in which he goes off in week 17, and there are scenarios where he does break out. I mean, he's a very talented player going into his second year, so there's definitely possible. I just think the more likely outcome is actually that him and Kyler Murray just don't have a connection. Marvin Harrison wins a lot on in-breaking routes, and Kyler Murray just doesn't throw in-breaking routes, so it's just not a very good combination. And I think he'll have a decent year, a solid year, but not a league-winning year. But we'll see. Obviously, I just drafted him, so I'm not completely discounting the possibility of that happening, and I like the Week 17 correlation. If Week 17, the game between the Cardinals and the Bengals is a shootout, those are two guys that are likely to have a big chunk of those fantasy points. All right, so nobody really in our queue that makes sense here. So we can go wide receiver. We could go Jalen Hurts here. I actually like Hurts in this spot here. Yeah, we're going to go Hurts. He's just a guy that you don't have to stack with. We'll try to get Devontae later. He won't be there, but if he fell, we would definitely take Devontae Smith. But Hurts is a guy that's going to score. Last year he scored 19 rushing touchdowns because of the tush push. They're not going to get the tush push is going to be around, so he's likely to get double digits rushing TDs. I think there's a good chance that they are in more close games and have to throw the ball more this year than they did last year. All that leans towards Jalen Hurts having an even better year in fantasy. So, and he's also a guy, most quarterbacks I don't really want to operate with in best ball if they're not stacked, but Hurts is an outlier to that because he can have a week where he scores 30 points and he doesn't have a piece that goes along with him, a teammate that goes along with him that's top 10 at their position. That's not common. Most of the time, if a quarterback goes off, they're bringing somebody along with them. In fact, top 5 quarterbacks 90% of the time have a positional player teammate that is top 10 at their position. But Hurts, that's not necessarily the case because he scores so many touchdowns on his own where he's not distributing the ball as much. So, like I said, if Devontae fell to us, that would be dope, but that's very unlikely. More than likely, we'll be looking at taking James Conner here, get more of that, get a kind of a unique back stack on that Bengals-Cardinals game. Would really love for Devontae to fall, but that would be pretty crazy. Falling 6 spots in the 5th round is a pretty big fall. Yep, there he goes. So we got a lot of good options here. We got Connor. I mean, we could get funky with it and see if Burrow doesn't get taken here at the turn, we could swoop Burrow. We'll take Connor now. The 512 Fun Justin here he should take Burrow here, but if he doesn't, we'll he just went, so looks like does he have he has interesting choice by that guy. I don't like I don't like Burrow unstacked. It doesn't make any sense to me. His whole team is fully unstacked. But if Burrow is the guy you need in week 17, he's going to be bringing somebody along with him. All right, so we're not getting Burrow, so we got to make a choice here. So it looks like receiver is the play. I think the guy with the most upside in this range is Hunter, but I also kind of like the idea of Golden because then we can go get Love. We'll go Hunter here. Just more upside. More upside with Hunter. Yeah, so we'll quarterback wise, we've got 3 options. And we already have Hurts in play, so we don't really need to worry about we don't necessarily have to go 2 more quarterbacks. When you go on an elite quarterback, it's okay to go, one other solid guy, and then you're good. You don't have to go 3 QBs. So I would feel fine getting Kyler on this team, getting Trevor Lawrence, or getting CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud would be my last choice, but it's definitely an option. So let's look at the board and where our QBs are at. 97. They pick 81, 88, and 105. So if we're taking Kyler, we need to take Kyler at the pick 88. It's very unlikely he would fall to 105. I don't really want to reach on Kyler, though. So if we're going to wait let's go ahead and put the Jags in here. Then we can see where Trevor Lawrence's ADP is at. Should be in the 130s. Yeah, 129. So we can wait a little bit longer at receiver. Okay. Okay, so we're good at QB, 2 solid running backs, 3 solid receivers. I would lean towards going receiver here. I'm going to go ahead and queue up the Colts as well. That's who the Jaguars play in week 17, so it'll give us 3 games that we are pursuing that game stack. On the clock here. Josh Downs makes sense. He does have the injury right now. Jawan Jennings questions with as well. I like Downs better. We'll go with Downs. That gives us correlation with Travis Hunter on week 17. Interesting that Higgins is still up here. I think Christian Kirk is the better selection if we're going to try to get a wide receiver to pair up with Niko. I think Kirk's going to score more fantasy points this year. Higgins might be a guy that comes on late. I don't have a ton of confidence in that. I think if somebody comes out of the Houston offense that had a day that you had to have for week 17 to win the $2 million, that it's probably Niko and Niko only. So I won't mind taking Kirk later, but yeah, I think we'll pass on Higgins and we'll take Pittman or Jennings here. We could also go Keon Coleman. That'd be interesting. Yeah, I think I'll do that actually, because then that would give us correlation with Jalen. With Jalen Hurts, they play the Bills in week 17, and if that game is a shootout, Hurts would have a big day, and Keon Coleman, I think, is the most likely wide receiver for the Bills to have a boom week. So could see that scenario playing out. And I prefer to get to 5 wide receivers before I get to pick 100. Just think that there's a huge drop off at wide receiver at this point in the draft. So feel good about that. Some guys that I don't have a lot of. I don't have a lot of Keon Coleman, and I don't have a lot of Marvin Harrison. Both guys that are going into their second year, and the potential breakout is in play for sure. So I like getting a little bit of mix. Like, I don't want to take huge stands in early rounds. I'll have preferences, but I don't, like, on a guy like Marvin Harrison, I don't want to be 0%. I don't want to be 8% either. I want to be less in the field, because I think the more likely outcome is he has a decent year, but not a year that pays off his ADP. That being said, he's definitely a talented individual that is capable of big games. So I don't want to completely fade him and miss out on that week 17 explosion or that potential breakout that I just don't think is that likely, but is definitely possible. I think if he had a different quarterback, that he would be in a much better spot to have a huge year. So coming up in our queue, we got Travis Etienne. He's the pick I would like here. A lot of people are going to disagree with my take on Travis Etienne, but I think he's the most likely out of that Jacksonville backfield to have true fantasy relevance. There's a good chance that Tank Bigsby is going to get the bulk load of the carries, especially early on in the year. But I think Travis Etienne is a good player. He's shown that in the NFL. I think he was playing hurt more than what we know last year, and he just didn't look as nearly explosive. I think with a full offseason to recover in the preseason, he looked explosive to me. He's a guy that's had a big workload in the past. He's been a top 5 RB fantasy-wise in this league, and it's not like he's old. I think he's going into his 4th year. Let's pull up his... chart here. I think he's going to his 4th year, but it's not like he's washed. He's going into year 4. Like, look at this. He had a 253 point season. The year before that, 187. Like, last year is the outlier. If he's healthy and he gets volume like he did previously, he could be a steal in this draft. So, okay, so in this range, we don't have a tight end yet. Goddard would be the tight end that would make sense with our current setup. Bateman. Yeah, we'll just go with Kirk. We'll set up a little bit of a stack with Niko. I think that'll probably be it for us at receiver. We're pretty set there. So quarterback-wise, we're not going to take Herbert because we didn't get any pieces of the Chargers. Probably going to go Trevor Lawrence for my next pick. I could wait. I could go with CJ instead of Trevor Lawrence. We have 2 pass catchers for CJ Stroud. But I just think that Trevor Lawrence is in a position that's more likely to have a big season. I think CJ Stroud and Trevor Lawrence are both guys that are capable of throwing 30 TDs. I think Trevor Lawrence is more likely to throw 40 TDs between the two of them. Obviously, that is not a likely outcome, but if they had outlier outcomes, I think Trevor's the one that's more likely to achieve that. I like the game stack that we have going in that game as well. We got Josh Downs on the comeback, and then we have Travis Hunter, Etienne, and if we got Lawrence, that would give us 3 pieces of that offense there. And that's an offense that I think they're one of the more likely offenses to be a surprise top 10 fantasy producing offense this year. And if that's the case, their pieces are going to be way underpriced when we look back at ADP. So I'm building this lineup towards that outlier outcome. But if that outcome occurs, this lineup is really going to be one that has an opportunity to smash and a shot at that $2 million because we we're able to stack these guys up. So that's what we're hoping for here. 7 picks away. Getting Trevor Lawrence right at his ADP. Feel pretty good about that. Let's see where the Brian Thomas owner is. Should be in this range. Yeah, so he's behind me. So shouldn't have to worry about getting sniped by Trevor Lawrence here by the Brian Thomas owner. So we should be good there. If we don't get him, it would probably make sense to just go with CJ. Build-wise, we are at 136, so no tight end still. Yeah, so we could double stack our tight ends later. 140, 153. Okay, so I might consider pulling Goddard up so we get, yeah, we need to take Goddard here and then hope that Strange gets back to us. That's the play. Take Tootin. CJ went. Yeah, we're just going to go a 2 QB build here. Good on buys everywhere. Yeah, so we're good. Yeah, so we'll go with Goddard. Get a little stack with Jalen. But with Jalen, again, like, we don't have to have him be stacked to have success because he can get so many tush-push touchdowns. That's a huge part of how he's going to go off. So that can work. Like I said, Jalen's one of the guys I don't have to have huge stacks with to feel comfortable with. I can feel comfortable with him naked or with a skinny stack. Pretty balanced lineup here. Obviously, Goddard isn't a stud at tight end, so we'll try to make up for that with volume, trying to get 3 guys in that positional slot to hope one of them banks each week, and more importantly, that they hit in the playoffs. I really like tying my tight ends to my quarterbacks as well. When we go to a correlation chart over here, where I broke down every single week from last year, show you that if a quarterback was top 5 for that scoring week, that 47% of the time they had a teammate tight end that was top 10 at the position. 36% of the time it was a running back. 55% of the time it was a wide receiver. So obviously that adds up to more than 100, and that's because in some weeks, roughly 47% of weeks, when a QB was top 5, he had 2 teammates that were top 10 at their position in fantasy points. So we want to have correlation. This is why we want to have correlation, because you can see in like weeks. Let me make sure I'm 7 picks away. Okay. Let's just go to week 17. Show you that. Week 17, Joe Burrow was QB1. T. Higgins was wide receiver 1. Mike Gesicki was tight end 6. Chase Brown was RB 13. Where was the Triple Crown winner? I don't see Jamar on there, but that just shows you, like, if T. Higgins goes off and Burrow goes off, like, it's very likely they both hit. When an offense goes off, it's likely that teammates have big weeks, big boom weeks, and that's what we're trying to capture is that scenario in which we get multiple players from one team going off because that game scores a lot of points. That's the type of game we're chasing. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get Strange here. So we complete our tight end stacks with our quarterbacks. Now we're pretty open to doing whatever we want here at this next pick. Trey Harris, if he's there, I would take. Shipley, it would be early to take Shipley, but I like Shipley with this lineup, so he'll definitely be a target with our following pick. Let's see, we have 160 to 174. Maybe we take Shipley here because Harris went. I'd really like to have Shipley with this lineup. Because if Saquon goes down, that's a good thing for Jalen, and obviously Will Shipley would be the dude. So we're just going to pull it up here. And so in a scenario in which Saquon gets hurt this year, this lineup would have additional strength because they should be throwing the ball more. And Will Shipley obviously now gives me another RB1 behind a really good offensive line and a good offense. So I like that scenario. So we are at 2, 4, 6, 2 as far as our positions go now. 2 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 6 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. I definitely want to add another tight end. Chigakonkwo, Cade Otton, those are guys I would take. Mason Taylor. Mike Gesicki is another guy that we could add to on our stack. The last one I would add here would be Harold Fannin. So we'll just go ahead and get those guys into the queue. Let's look at other running backs. I would definitely be interested in Algier. Grando's falling, but I still have interest. People are freaking out over the Brian Robinson thing, but I think if there's going to be a stud that came out of the San Francisco backfield and that wasn't named, that wasn't a Christian McCaffrey, I think Garendo is more likely to be that guy than Robinson. I haven't heard anything on Roshan. Ollie Gordon already go. Yeah. Got a few shares of Gordon earlier in the year when he was going in the 18th round, but haven't been getting much of him lately. There's nobody I'm really in love with here. Go ahead and just go Chig. He has a good shot at a breakout this year, so we can get rid of the rest of our tight ends. We don't need to go 4 tight ends. Taking Daniel Jones. Not taking Taj Brooks. Let's look at our running back room. 2 studs, 1 guy with upside, and then a premium handcuff. I think Horton's probably the pick here. Go running back to finish it. Horton's just been getting a lot of buzz in camp. Looks like he's going to be a starter right out of the gates and running some high value routes. He's a guy that I think is going to have a few big games this year. So we'll go ahead and add that piece. But now we need to go running back to finish. So we'll go ahead and get rid of our wide receivers. Giddens jumps off the board for me here. Guys that I want. He's a premium handcuff, meaning like it's pretty clear that if Jonathan Taylor goes down, that Giddens would just take over. And that's the kind of guy that we're looking for at this point in the the draft, somebody that could step into volume, step into opportunity. And he also is a nice game correlation against one of our QBs and that we have a game stack with. And Trevor Lawrence, we got Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and Travis Hunter. And then we also have Josh Downs with the game correlation there. And if we got Giddens, that would be another comeback as well. So let's hope he falls. It would be a little bit of a fall for him in ADP, but ADP is a little all over the place down in this range of the draft. Two more guys. Let's see. Come on, Giddens. Get there. Get there. One more. One more guy. Let's go. Let's go. Attaboy. There's that $2 million faller that we needed. He's going to be the missing piece. He's going to be the one that goes off in week 17. That's the one right there. Nice. Like the correlation, like the balanced lineup that we have here. Go one more running back on the way out here. Or I could go Dyami Brown. I think that actually might be what I do. Tucker, there's a little bit less clear path for him to get a lot of touches, and you have a younger running back in front of him in Bucky. Yeah, let's go ahead and get the Dyami Brown connection. So a little wide receiver heavy. Normally I would stop at 7 and always try to get 6 running backs, but feel strong about this room that we'll get 2 guys out of this every week. And there's a lot of upside too with Shipley and Giddens. I think 2 of the best premium handcuffs you can get. Wide receiver, we got Niko with his teammate Christian Kirk. Then we got Marvin Harrison to get us some Chase Brown game correlation. Travis Hunter to go with Trevor Lawrence. Josh Downs to go against Travis Hunter in that Week 17 game. Keon Coleman as our comeback against Jalen Hurts. Torrey Horton on his own, but somebody that I think has a lot of upside. And Dyami Brown to finish out our Jaguars stack. And then at wide receiver, actually we still have more Jaguars. We got Goddard to stack with Jalen. Britton Strange to stack with Trevor. And then Chigakonkwo on his own, but a guy that I think has breakout potential this year. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Tell your friends about the Milly Maker Maniac. And good luck in your drafts and good luck in fantasy football this season. Good luck, my friends.